Hey, are you living paycheck to paycheck? We always say this word paycheck to paycheck, but do we know what it means? Do we know the implications of this? And do we know why we get to live paycheck to paycheck? So today in this video, guys, we're going to be looking at the reasons why you could be living paycheck to paycheck. And then I'll give a few pointers on how you can get off that track. The most difficult thing, I was just having this conversation with someone recently. The most difficult thing you can go through financially is living paycheck to paycheck. It's whereby you're feeling like you're working for nothing. You're working whereby you're in a precarious position. You're at a cliff. If anything happens, you're out. If you lose your job, and we've known this can now happen based on what happened 2 years ago or in the last 2-3 years with the world economy and COVID and everything else happening, we know these things happen. Paycheck to paycheck is the most precarious position you want to be in as someone who is working or doing business or basically just getting some regular income. So in this video, I'm just going to be looking at how can you get off, but that's not the main thing. Is what makes you get on the paycheck to paycheck ladder? What could lead you there? And then of course, what are some of the solutions that you could actually have to get you off that ladder? So guys, welcome. I hope you're okay. I hope you're doing well. I hope the year has started on a good note. Mine is getting exceptionally well, and I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for every one of you who has been supportive. I'm grateful for those who comment. I'm grateful for those who watch. I'm grateful for the 20,000 something followers. We're hitting 21,000 soon. I'm grateful for the growth. So let's look at some of the things that could lead you to this dangerous path of living paycheck to paycheck. You work every single day. You work for the last 10-20 years. You do a good job. You earn a good salary, but there is no money. So where is the money going to? Where could the money be going to? Let's get into it, guys. The first thing that puts people on this particular dangerous track or dangerous path is lack of financial literacy. And financial literacy is basically you understanding and getting the information, the knowledge, and the education about your finances. I always tell people, you go and look for information about everything. You want to become something, you study it. You want to become an engineer, you study to be an engineer. You want to become an architecture, you study to be an architecture. You want to become, I don't know, a programmer, you study to be a programmer. But when it comes to finances, you do assume that you have it covered. You don't. And we have an environment that did not nurture that in us. The school system did not teach us that. The financial world can be a bit complex sometimes. It can be overwhelming if you think about it. So what do you want to do? You want to ensure that you have some knowledge and some information about the financial world. Financial literacy is basically getting some basic understanding of how money works, getting some basic understanding of how things work in the financial world, in the economic world. And that will give you an edge and help you plan. So it's very, very important for you to start thinking, do you have enough or sufficient financial literacy for you to actually manage your money? That's the first thing. So you want to ensure that you have financial literacy. But now this second one is going to be a bit, conflicting, but it's not conflicting at all. It's a different concept. The second one is what we call financial awareness. This is a very important point, and people never talk about this. You can be financially literate, but you're not financially aware. So you could know exactly what you need to do. You could be understanding the complex world. You could even be in accounting. You could even be in the finance world. You could even be working in a bank. So you understand investments. You understand how these things work. I've worked with clients who worked in banks, who worked in financial institutions, and they know how things work. They know how the process runs. They know what they need to do, but they are not financially aware. Financial awareness is that conscious presence. It's more like what you'd call budgeting, but I don't want to use the word budgeting. But it's you being aware of your numbers. It's you being aware of your life financially. It's you being aware of where you're going to, where do you want to be, what are your goals, what are your objectives. That is financial awareness. So despite having the knowledge to understand financial world and how the economics work, you need to be financially aware of your life. It's more like doctors who end up doing certain things that are very unhealthy that they advise their people not to do. So they know everything they need not to do. They know everything about health. They know everything about how the body functions. They know everything that's not good for them, but you still find them doing the same things. And actually those things do kill them. So yes, they are educationally present and logically present in that world and they understand it, but they haven't tuned that world into themselves and become conscious and aware of the fact that it's impacting them. Of course, they will know from a standpoint, from what I call the overview standpoint of the literacy standpoint, but they haven't been deeply aware of how that impacts them. So you need to be deeply aware of your financial life. You need to be deeply aware and conscious of where you want to get to financially. So financial awareness is different from financial literacy. Financial awareness is a deep understanding of your finances as a person in your world, your dreams, your objectives. Or if you're a couple, financial awareness is, okay, this is how much we have coming in, this is how much we have going out, this is how much you spend on 1, 2, 3. You know where your money is going to. Without understanding your numbers, without knowing your numbers, even if you're earning so much money, because you could be financially literate, you know where to invest, you know everything else, but not aware. Sometimes you could even know how to invest and where to put the money, but you always put money in the wrong places. You always invest money while you're losing it. You always use the money for the wrong reasons, despite knowing exactly what you need to do. So you need to be financially aware besides being financially literate. And ways in which you can do this is through budgeting. So that takes me to the third thing, which is poor budgeting. If you have a poor budgeting process or plan, then you're going to have problems, with your finances. You're going to be living paycheck to paycheck, because then you end up getting the money, you spend all of it without even knowing where it's going to, because you have no clear plan, you don't have no clear budget. If you have no plan of how to actually utilize your money, how are you expecting to achieve your goals? Poor budgeting has led a lot of people down the drain. But when it comes to budgeting, I'm always very careful, because I don't want to force people to have those complex Excel sheets and whatever, and writing all the money they've spent, all the money they've not spent, and everything coming in, going out, and stuff like that. They just feel like, oh, it's too overwhelming, it's cumbersome. That's why you have people like us, and that's why you have accountants as well. But you don't need those people, because you're earning little money and don't want to be hiring people all over the place. You're trying to reserve that money, that capital that you have. What do? Avoid the complex world of budgeting completely. All I ask of you, if you're my client usually, I say you just need to know how much you get and the major expenses. That's one. The second way you can do it is, you don't want to budget, you don't want to do anything else, you don't want to care where you're spending your money. All I'm asking you is every single month, commit and be disciplined, religiously so, to putting away some money, a certain amount of money, and pay yourself even before you pay your rent. That way, you'll be forced to know your numbers when the money doesn't get you to the end of the month, or the paycheck doesn't get you to the next paycheck, because now you'll be like, okay, I need to survive and I need to think. And that will now kick off that motion of the things you need to do mentally and physically for you to get that money. So what you do if you don't want to budget, I don't want to write books, I don't want to write Excel sheets, all you need to do is simple. You already know how much your rent costs, so I'm sure you won't invest more than your, what you need to invest. But just know, because even the most stupid person will know that my rent, or not stupid, but most unaware person will know that, okay, this is how much my rent costs, this is how much I spend on fuel per month. It's very easy. You don't even need to write stuff. I just know my main expenses. I know averagely how much they cost. I don't need to write anything. All you need to do, take away money that you want to invest, pay yourself first before you pay anyone else in your life. That way, you will now have to work out with what you have. And if you waste it because you don't know how much it is and where it's going to, no problem. But the money that's being invested is gone already. That is a way in which you can trick your brain to start thinking finances if you don't want to do the budgeting. And I never force people. Some people don't like budgeting. You do it for 1 month or 2 months, and all these financial advisors are telling you to budget. After 3 months, you're done with it. You don't want to see it again. I'm saying do it your way. Make it work for you. Don't do it in a way that has been done before. Just say, hey, I'm getting this much per month. I'm taking 1,000 straight to investment. I'm taking 20,000 straight to investment. Whatever is left, that's what people will use to survive. Because what you're doing is you're securing your future. The other thing that makes you live paycheck to paycheck sometimes, and this is not on you, this is unforeseen circumstances that happen to us. Have you heard that most Africans, and even in Kenya, our middle class people are only one illness away from poverty? Meaning, if you get a proper illness in the family or within your nuclear setting, then you probably will be poor. Why? Because healthcare is shit, at least within the country, and it's expensive. I always say the biggest disaster we have in our country is the healthcare system. It's terrible, it's business, it's cartel run, it's just not good, it doesn't work. It's so bad. But that also means it becomes very expensive, because when you want to seek quality healthcare or quality treatment, you need to actually pay so much money for it. So what happens? People fly their people out of the country. It's expensive. That's why you see every time we have some fundraiser for someone who wants to go for treatment, because healthcare is super expensive, and we haven't embraced the idea of insurance, which I keep preaching here all the time. We haven't embraced the idea of making sure that we have insurance when you're still healthy, so that when you're not, you can be taken care of. So that's a very important thing that you also want to remember, that you should actually have insurance. But the main thing here is unforeseen circumstances, loss of jobs, sickness, anything that interferes with your income, bad business, COVID happened, for example. If you had a business that was impacted, there are so many things that could happen to you, that could hit you, that were unforeseen, that could then really ensure or really mess up your finances. So this is something that can also put you on that path of paycheck to paycheck, because probably you had investment somewhere that is all lost, a company went down, whatever it is, it can lead you to that position of living paycheck to paycheck. Then I always talk about financial trauma all the time. Financial trauma are the habits and behaviors that we collected from our environment growing up, that we have internalized and we don't even know them. We just make decisions and we think that these are independent decisions. These decisions that we keep making are decisions tied to whoever it is modeled as, financially speaking. So most of us, and not all, most people, I would say 90% of Africans, we suffer from financial trauma, whereby some of these decisions, we're just making them from no proper foundation. We basically fear risk because we know our parents feared risk, for example. We basically go to certain professions because we know that that's what was secure. We try to remain comfortable because we know if we try to move too fast and ask for too much money and value ourselves too much, then you might lose a job. We hold on to bad job relationships. We get into relationships, or romantic and personal relationships, with the wrong people, financially speaking, and in that sense we lose money. So all these are what we call financial trauma. It comes from so many areas. It can come from different angles and can affect your finances. So sometimes even the person you are with could be impacting how you think about your finances, and therefore making you live paycheck to paycheck. This is all part of financial trauma. So one way in which you want to avoid this is by having the right people around you, and of course trying to change those behaviors and question your habits around finances. How did they come to be? Don't just make the same decisions that your parents made. Don't just buy land, don't just buy houses just because it's a good thing. You have to sit down, become financially aware, like I said earlier, financially aware, and know that that is going to actually contribute to your final objective, financially speaking. So ensure that you have that awareness, okay, that when you're making any decisions, it's not just decisions based on environment, based on what people are doing, based on what your parents did, based on what your uncle did. It should also be based on some logic that is applied at this particular instance, environment, and to you as a person. And then there's a big one for me. We don't seek help. We don't seek financial advice, financial coaching. I offer my coaching services here all the time. We don't seek help. If you know you can't get that help, if you know you can't get things right, you need someone who understands things, who can give you the help. Be vulnerable. If you don't want to get in a hole, if you don't want to get in a mess, or if you're in a mess already, it's not your fault. Try to seek for help. It's very important when it comes to finances. So most people end up living paycheck to paycheck because they don't actually seek help. You don't talk to someone to help you understand why, despite making so much money, growing in your career, you still live paycheck to paycheck. You haven't invested much, you haven't saved much, you have nothing to count for it. You need someone to go through this with you. And sometimes it's not just because the other person is cleverer or more intelligent. It's because you need a third eye that could be professional for you to get to understand some of these things. It can be complex, it can be overwhelming, it can be difficult to comprehend, and that's where you need someone else to come in and help you. Make sure that you seek financial advice, financial coaching. I always say, for us, financial coaching is what works best, because in this sense, we have so many habits and so many things that we need to get rid of and understand before we can go for just advice. So we need coaching, someone who can understand finances just beyond the normal finances, but other factors outside financial world that could impact your finances as well, including culture. Then we have debts. This is a big one. So a lot of people are in debt, they're struggling with lots of debts. So what do you do in this particular instance? Most people, when they get into debt, they go into a closed cocoon. They don't want to talk about it. They feel shameful about it. They just do not address it at all. Or sometimes they ignore it like it doesn't exist, and because they just don't want to face that big problem. But debt is one thing that can derail your financial journey and can make you live paycheck to paycheck, because if Shylocks and banks and all these people are coming after you, what happens? You have nothing left at the end of the day. So you basically have to live paycheck to paycheck, literally. So debts can really impact you. How do you deal with it? Seek advice, seek help, and make sure you sit down with yourself, have a conversation with yourself, and know what you want to achieve long term. If you want to be running away from people who are chasing you because you have their money, then that's fine. But if you want to actually solidify your base, financially speaking, and get out of that particular place or that hole, then again, that's the best decision. One thing with that is, if you tackle it, you will always find a way out. But if you ignore it, it will continue piling and piling and piling and getting worse, and it will just impact you negatively. So if you have debt, the best thing is to focus on it, understand that debt, be aware of it, get to the details of the debt, and talk to those people in ways that you can manage that debt effectively over time. Running away doesn't help, okay? Ignoring doesn't help. So debt is one thing that could make you live paycheck to paycheck. But for you to get out of that position, you have to pay the debt. You have to service that debt somehow. And then finally, and this is mainly for Kenyans and those who have crazy fun, sherehe. Having too much fun. Sherehe is fun in Swahili. So for those who don't understand Swahili, sherehe is fun. Too much fun. You need to balance it out. I know we have fun. I know we are born to just do crazy stuff, have fun, live the life. But sometimes it can make you live paycheck to paycheck, because the moment you get that money, where does it go to? Straight to the bar, straight to those things that make you happy, straight to help you strike that dopamine release. So what happens? You wait for that paycheck and you're straight off to have that fun. Or things like drugs, for example, addictions. So when I say sherehe here is a big field that I can go into different ways in which sherehe can mess you up. So it's not just about going out every single time. Again, could also be usage of drugs. Could also be, women. For us men, that's a big thing. Could spending too much money on women, or trying to find women all the time, or different ones, or changing them, or whatever it is, or trying to please them. So these are some of the things that could derail you and make you live paycheck to paycheck. And of course, as black people, we have what we call the black tax, whereby you have a burden, you have a family burden, you feel guilty, you feel shame, you want to make sure that you carry everyone because you are the only person who has succeeded. So you want to carry every single person with you. And sometimes you just can't, financially you just can't. Or sometimes you try to carry everyone, while in the real sense, you also derailing your future. So what happens in the future? You want to be carried by someone else. So you have to break the cycle. Someone has to break the cycle and say, you know what, damn, I have to now focus on me right now. I have to focus on my own goals. You guys, I've done my best. This is the best I can do at this particular time, but I'm also important. I am important. So you must have very strict financial boundaries as well. And these are things that come from financial trauma. Lack of financial boundaries come from financial trauma and other traumas as well. So unless you tackle those things, and unless you find someone who can give you that information and tell you that so openly, what happens? You will live paycheck to paycheck, because when you get money, everyone is demanding. And because you are so generous and you're so rich, you give everyone. What happens? You never have any money. No growth, no money. Paycheck to paycheck. So there are so many things that could put you on that path of paycheck to paycheck. How do you get out? Simple. Seek help. Talk to the right people. Get some financial literacy. Understand money. Be aware of your finances. Know your numbers. Make sure you know your numbers. Make sure you know where your money is going to. And then have financial boundaries. Don't just be generous. And reduce the amount of sherehe. But the main thing here is being aware of your finances and having very clear objective of where you want to get to, financially speaking. And that is how you get the solutions. Are as simple as that. If you have debt, tackle it. If you can't, find advice. Okay? This is how you get out of that financial. It's not making more money, by the way. Sometimes I know making more money is good, definitely, because you want to make more money and then you can pay off your debts and you can have more fun. Fine. But sometimes you make more money and you still live paycheck to paycheck. So don't think that making more money is automatically going to take you off that paycheck to paycheck track. You have to consciously get out of that paycheck to paycheck track. Otherwise, I hope that's helpful, guys. Until next time, I'm out.